for Byrd, and I'm an ordained minister. I'm a psychic medium, and I'm a spiritual healer. The ordained minister part, I can marry you or bury you, as you choose. The psychic aspect is everyone is a psychic, and basically what that is you use the subtle energies around a person, you learn to tap into those to find out what's going on in and around a person, place, or thing. The mediumship is what I consider to be a true gift, and that is, I'm a clairvoyant, so that means that I see spirit and I can communicate directly with them. If I don't see them, then they sort of communicate with a type of telepathy, I would say, where they impress the knowledge and I'm able to pass it on to the client. As far as the spiritual healing is concerned, I practice a form of healing called magnetic healing, where I take my aura, my energy, and make it magnetic so I can actually reach in and pull out negative energies and replace it with positive energies. I also employ a lot of herbs, oils, candles, and incense in my work. I got my start in Cassadaga, Florida, which is a town of spiritualists, just the next town over. At 13 years old, my family decided that I needed formal training in what I do. I've always done this, it runs in my family, but someone thought that I should be guided along the path a little bit. So I started my formal training there with James Thomas. He's now the pastor of the church there. And I began, I believe, working in the church itself in Cassadaga at 14 years old as a healer. So that's how I got my start. This is something that I've always done, and I wouldn't know what to do otherwise. I wouldn't know any different. My life would be incomplete without this gift. So that's how I got my start. I think my most amazing experience that I've had in Cassadaga was probably when I was about 15 years old, and we had an elderly woman that came to the healing temple there. She had terminal cancer and was not expected to live and had refused treatment because of her age, and she was just so sick. That cancer, after working with us, completely went into remission and went away with no treatment, medical treatment at all. So that was probably my most amazing experience there. And as far as whether I work with other people or not, I do. I work with Dr. Thomas, who is, like I said, he's the pastor of the church in Cassadaga. And usually when I work with him, it would be for a funeral or some sort of service like that. I also work with my friend Daphne, who is a Jamaican spiritual worker. And I also work with my friend Tina, and she's a Reiki healer, she's a Reiki master, and so between the four of us, if one of us can't handle the job, there's always somebody else to look out for somebody. I think that probably my most powerful reading that I've done was probably about 3 years ago. I had a man come to the house with two other women from California for readings, and he really treated it like it was a joke. He didn't seem like he was very interested in the process at all. But as he sat down, he went from being a non-believer to being a believer big time. And I think that the reason it was the most powerful that I've done, for me, is because of the emotional release that this man, that came here as a skeptic, then the sobbing and the crying when everything that he wanted to find out was validated for him, and he was able to speak to the people in his life that had passed on. That probably was my most powerful reading. As a medium, I don't retain a lot of what I say to the people. I'm the channel, so I have a specific job, and that job is definitely not to remember what I'm telling them. That's up to them to remember. I am the channel, so I'm working, so I can't do two things at once. So I don't really remember a lot of the stuff that I say during readings. I just have what they tell me afterwards to go on. So that's probably my most powerful reading, and it was just because of the emotional release. As far as anything on the other side making me nervous, no, it doesn't. I'm not afraid of anything that's over there. Too many things over here are spooky enough, but definitely not afraid of anything over there. Never encountered anything that couldn't be taken care of, ever. So, that hopefully will answer that question. And I think that I've never faced anything that that could not be taken care of or handled. And I've never faced any fear in this work. The only thing I have done, and it's a challenge more than anything else, it's a type of case, and that would be spirit obsession. That's a difficult one, and that's different than possession. Possession, everybody understands the spirit's inside of the person. Spirit obsession is different in that the spirit remains on the outside of the person, affecting their energies and their aura. A lot of times they kind of attach to the person, and they can make them, through time, start behaving differently, making bad decisions, things like that. If you can't convince a person that this is what's going on with them, it's very, very difficult to release that entity, to release that spirit from them and separate them so that that person can go on and lead a normal life. That is a challenge. It's not undoable, but it is a challenge. So that would probably be my most challenging thing. So, what's on the other side? People always want to know what's on the other side. The other side, through my work as a medium, what I can tell you through my work is that everyone is content when they pass. Love, peace. It's hard to explain the feelings and the emotions that they bring with them when spirit comes to communicate. The satisfaction. There's no stress. There's no fear. Everything is just as it should be. I had a near-death experience myself. I had a tooth pulled. It was an abscessed tooth, and the infection went through my bloodstream into my heart and lungs, and I didn't go to the hospital like I should have. I thought I could doctor it at home myself, and clearly that was the wrong choice. But for me, my experience was brief but powerful. I mean, it's something that will stick with me for the rest of my life. I went to bed that night, and the next thing I knew, I felt the presence of people around me, and I had hands all over my back. And I don't remember a tunnel, really, like everybody talks about. It's just that suddenly I felt the presence of a lot of people and hands on me, and then the next thing I knew, I was on my knees, and I was standing before a man and a woman, and that to me can only be God. And I just was on my knees, and I was just crying and sobbing, and it wasn't from any sort of, oh, I'm sorry that I'm dead, or I really miss anybody, or anything like that. It was the feeling of love that came forth from them. It's indescribable, and it'll stick with me for the rest of my life. I've never experienced anything like that. The reason that I think that this would make good television, I think that the reason that this would make good television is because there's so much interest nowadays in spirituality, in ghost hunting, all that kind of stuff. But there's definitely a missing link in the chain, and that would be, you know, rather than just seeing somebody get a reading and then not having it affect anybody at home, to be able to see a process where people whose lives were, you know, a mess, or people who really had big things to overcome, get that healing, and to go through the process of doing the readings and doing the healings and using the crystals and the herbs and the oils and seeing the transformation, that would be powerful to people at home too. I think that more so than, you know, seeing somebody walk around with an EVP, you know, recorder, or, you know, the stuff that we're used to seeing on television. I think that also that it would be good to dispel a lot of the fear that people have. There's interest in this, but then there's a lot of misinformation out there about spirituality, about mediums and psychics in general. And I think that honestly this would be a great way of educating the public and, you know, teaching people how to heal. You know, you see counseling shows, you see, you know, like I said, all the ghost shows and all, but this would be the first time that anything like this was ever done, you know? So I think that would be the reason that it would make good TV. I think that it would be powerful.